The Auburn Tigers do everything they need to do. They squish the Richmond Spiders.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. And thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby. He is Montgomery radio legend Darrell Dapprich, and we are recapping Auburn's 98-54 beatdown of the Richmond Spiders. I think there's a few takeaways here. We'll talk about Jakai Howard's explosive performance and what he could represent for the future of this team. But I think the big picture takeaway here, Darrell, is this is a game where you're supposed to dominate a team, but it's a weird tip-off time, 11 o'clock on a Sunday, and none of it mattered. Auburn dominated from the opening tip to the final closing seconds of the game, and that's exactly what you want to see.
It's one of those basketball games where it's just about Auburn. It's what Bruce Pearl wants to see out of his team. It's not the opponent. It's not the spread. It's not the outcome. It's about, okay, I want to see how my team responds and just focus on my team and worry about Auburn alone. And here's a couple of the things we talked about the last time we went live. Auburn has been playing very, very high-level basketball against very high-level teams and high-level venues. You can talk about Maui, but it's still a pressure-packed environment. Even though it's a smaller gym, the atmosphere is good because of all the teams. Then Cameron. So how do you come back home and respond to playing a lesser-than opponent at 11 o'clock? And Auburn answered all those questions. They got out to a quick start. They look good. They look fresh. They look motivated. I love that this team can get itself hype and motivated to whatever level they need to, regardless of who they're playing. And that's very, very important. So they checked all the boxes early for me as far as those intangibles, how they were going to come out, no letdown. And that's important.
Yeah, 6 players in double digits. Denver scores 11. Janai scores 11. That may have been his lowest of the season. Chad Baker-Mazara, 13. Miles Kelly, 15. Tahad with 15. And Jakai Howard, 5 of 9 from the floor for 13 points. And you got to think that that's encouraging.
And I will say, been watching Auburn basketball pretty regularly since 1989, was there for the Chris Porter years. That dunk was one of the most impressive dunks in Neville Arena that I've seen. I mean, the extension on it, it wasn't right underneath the basket. He had a long arm. It was just electric. And so it's good to see him, and we'll talk about him later and what that means, but it's good to see him getting in the rotation.
Yeah. Thoughts on getting the tech for blowing the kiss?
I think Auburn is borderline a lot of the times getting technical fouls, and that's just one area of the game that they just got to clean up. I don't think the kiss was a little bit, but just don't do it. I mean, it's not, I get it. It's a generational thing, but they are so close to with body, with how they body motions, things they do. I just don't want it to cost Auburn in a game in the SEC where it's a close game. You just got to clean that up a little bit, be careful. I like them playing with emotion. I really do. But those little things will come back to haunt you, I think.
Yeah, you're right. And also just like the situation of it all. Like it wasn't a big deal in this game, but also like you're kind of battling for playing time again because it sounds like you've acted on emotion too many times. And so it's probably wasn't the best thing for him. I don't think he should have gotten teed up for it. I think other people have done way worse and not gotten teed up for it. But what's the upside, right? If you're Jakai Howard, like what's the upside of blowing a kiss to the opposing bench? It's so funny to me.
There is none. I mean, that's the thing. And I think that the officials could have handled that a little bit different. Walked over there, gave him a warning, said don't do it again. But they teed him up right away. But there is nothing to be gained about blowing a kiss in a blowout to Richmond's bench. And at that point, it wasn't 100% blowout, but it was close. That just needs to be dealt with as far as, coaching the kid and saying, hey, you just got on the floor. Like you said, you just got minutes. Don't do anything stupid to get you taken off the floor again.
Yep. To me, that's the takeaway on that. Miles Kelly's 15 was kind of a quiet 15, but 4 of 5 from 3. It's like one of those games where it's like, all right, who's going to get hot today? And today it was Miles Kelly.
He looks so good shooting the basketballs, catch and shoot scenarios, coming off screens, and he could shoot. He shot 3 or 4 feet. It looked like behind the 3-point line. He looks fluid. Looks like the wrist is healed. I'm telling you,
good point.
Kelly is the X factor. You know what you're going to get from Broome. You know what you're going to get from Baker Mazzara. I think Todd is Pettiford's starting to come into his own, but you start getting Miles Kelly going to where he should be. I think he's a guy that's a 14, 15-point a game scorer. And you get that outside threat, it's going to make Auburn so difficult to defend. And then if you add Howard into the mix now, giving him 12, 13, 14 minutes a game into the rotation, it just makes his team deeper and more dangerous.
Yeah, okay, here's an interesting one. JP Pegues plays just 4 minutes. He entered the game when there was like 3 or 4 minutes left to go. Like, he did not play a ton and was, I mean, if it was close, would he have played at all? I think it's a realistic and reasonable question. But in those 4 minutes, 0 for 3 from the floor. I mean, not only were we seeing him lose minutes, but even with the minutes he's getting, it just seems to be like getting more and more inefficient with his time on the floor. How long do you ride this until you're Bruce Pearl and you say, like, I can't play you in big games?
Well, I mean, I think what he did today answers that question. I'm absolutely shocked that he didn't get at least 17, 18 minutes in a game that was a blowout at halftime. That if there's ever a chance,
right?
Yeah, it speaks volumes. If there's ever a game to put him in to try to let him get his confidence back reestablished, it's a game where you're beating somebody 25-30, and yet he stayed on the bench. If you're not going to play him in a game against Richmond where you're boat racing them, how are you going to play him in a conference game that's close? I think that's very telling. Yeah, and it's almost like has finally punted and lost faith in him.
Gosh,
I hate to say it, but why wouldn't you play him? Why would you not play him?
And you talked about that. I think I assume it was you.
Yes.
After the Duke game, we were like, all right, we'll see him on Sunday. He's gonna give him a chance to shoot it out and shoot through it. No, and he tried to. I mean, he played 4 minutes and shot it 3 times, and he 0 for 3. I mean, that's tough. That's tough. I mean, just when you look at what he was able to do at Furman, that's just, I don't know.
And it's not like it's only,
is it him? Well, is it mental? I mean, there's a lot of things going on here.
And I would say this, if you go back and look at his stats from last year and look at his splits, if he only had good games against lesser than opponents, against mid-majors, that would be one thing. But I think he had some good games against some Power 5 schools or Power 4 schools. Yeah. So that's where it's even more head-scratching.
Yeah. I hate it for him because, I mean, this was a big get. And I think it's his last year of eligibility too, right? And like, you don't want to go out this way. I hate that that's not working.
I don't know if there's a correlation or a connection because I think Trey Donaldson jumped in the portal before Auburn went and got Pegues. But the way Trey Donaldson is playing at Michigan right now, yeah, you would really love to have that two-headed monster at point guard with him and Pettiford and let Denver play his natural position at the 2. I mean, you know, there's no reason to look back, but you hope that there wasn't a connection there because at this point, it looks like, you know, the trade-off, you'd much rather – you're lucky you have Pettiford because if Pettiford wouldn't come in and make the impact he's made, right, you would really have a deficiency at the guard position because Donaldson is just going off at Michigan right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a change of scenery thing. I think that just kind of, you know, ran its course, and whether it's personalities or situations, whatever it is, I mean, I think that was a mutual parting of ways for sure. But seeing him do well, it kind of is like, man, what if? It's hard not to. It's hard not to. All right, who's your player of the game? I think you can make a case for several guys. Drop that in the live chat down below, and also what's next for this Auburn basketball team. All that's next right here on this post-game edition as Auburn beats Richmond 98-54 here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. I tell you what, our everydayers that use Game Time often, they went to this game, they were like $20 in the lower level on the Game Time app. So hopefully some folks took advantage.
I ordered some for the Georgia State game. I had a couple people that wanted to go that I had promised in the offseason, so I just went ahead and got on there and found a really good deal for the Georgia State game.
Was it the Lightning deals?
It was a Lightning deals, December 17th. They're not standing room only. They actually have a seat, which is nice. So, yeah, and then it's funny. I've got somebody that went to the Titans-Jaguars game today, and you really could have got a great deal if you wanted to go on Game Time and go to the Titans-Jaguars game.
I bet.
In fact, Game Time may have paid you to go.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you'll pay me $20 to go to this game?
Exactly.
Go watch the Jags? Yeah, that's right. Hey, take the guess. We're going to buying tickets with the Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The line was 29.5 in this game. That's what it was at tip-off anyway. And if you would have taken the Tigers, you would have won. And if you would have bet $5 for your first bet, you'd also be getting $150 in bonus bets. So head over to FanDuel.com. Yes, Darrell. Yes, Darrell.
Otherwise known as Christmas money.
Oh, yeah.
Think about that.
Knock off a few items on your list real quick.
Yep.
Real quick.
More than just stocking stuffers for $150. I guarantee that,
right,
my friend.
That's right. Yeah. So head over to FanDuel.com to check it out today. FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook. The Tigers take down Richmond 98-54. The player of the game in your mind is who, Darrell? I'm going Miles Kelly just because of the 4 or 5 from 3. It's hard to replicate that.
Me too. He seemed to just absolutely take the game over. There was no hope that there was going to be a comeback. The threes he hit were daggers in early in a game, daggers. That speaks volumes. He looked fluid. He announced his presence with authority with hitting those threes. So, yes, Miles Kelly was also my player of the game.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument for Chad Baker-Mazara just because he did a few different things. Like he got rebounds, 5 assists. 6 rebounds for Chad Baker-Mazara, 13 points. He also had a steal and a block. Like, he did a lot. Chad Baker-Mazara did a lot of different things today. And I think you could also make the argument for CBM if you wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the teardrop with the left hand underneath the basket was one of the prettier shots that I've also seen. I mean, he continues to find creative ways to score. I think he had a 4-point play too, where he hit a 3 and got fouled, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You don't see that too often.
Yeah, that you don't. And he can inside out you, Zach. He can hit the teardrop. He can hit the mid range. He can dunk on your head. He can hit the 3. He hits free throws.
Yeah.
He has become such an offensive Swiss Army knife, like Seth Greenberg said, that they're a different team with him on the floor. Period.
Yep. All right, so let's do our favorite game. Looking ahead, what's Auburn's record over the next 5 games?
I texted you that I changed mine. Did you like that?
Yeah, you changed it to 5-0. What we talked yesterday.
Yeah,
that was in response to Purdue.
They lost to.
They got blitzed by somebody.
Yeah, they did.
That wasn't great. Like,
oh, it was Penn State.
So I thought Penn State. I'm like, no, that's not it. But yeah, it is it. Yeah, which they're not great.
Penn State's basketball State's basketball team more in tune to winning a big game than their football team is.
That's right, but they're in the college football playoff regardless.
Yeah. Well.
Who's not in the college football playoff?
I think Alabama for the first time in a long time, huh?
How about that? All right, so over the next 5 games, Ohio State, they play there next Saturday, or I guess this Saturday at Atlanta for the Holiday Hoopsgiving, which has become one of my favorite non-tournament non-conference events. It seems like Auburn's always in that, which is fun. Then they play Georgia State a few days after that in Neville. They play Purdue in Birmingham at the Legacy Arena, and then Monmouth. And then 5 games out takes us into SEC play, where they host Missouri to start conference play. So in your mind,
5-0. 5-0. 5-0. I think they're beating Purdue in Birmingham, where I had them last week losing. I think that changes things. I was kind of hedging on that anyway because that game's in Birmingham. That's almost like a home game. And then seeing Penn State beat Purdue, I don't think there's any reason why the Tigers can't go 5-0 the next 5.
I think you're right. I'm actually now more worried about Ohio State than Purdue. Is that crazy? Am I off on that?
They played somebody the other night really, really close. That was
Ohio State did?
Yeah, that was a ranked team. Pull that up. I know they lost at the buzzer to the Pitt Panthers in Columbus on on a last-second shot, but they played somebody close, I thought.
Doesn't look like it. They lost to Maryland a few days ago, but
who was before Maryland?
Google displays it all weird. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's see. They just beat Rutgers 80-66.
That's who it was. They beat Rutgers with Ace Bailey. Remember, Rutgers was in that tournament with Alabama and got to the third round of that tournament, whatever. So that's the game that with that dynamic freshman, they beat them pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And OG22 in our live chat is letting us know that Kansas is getting whipped by Mizzou right now.
That'd be their second loss in a row.
Yeah. So you got to think they'd fall. Could Auburn
Kansas
be the number one team?
By Missouri?
That's what it's saying.
Ooh. And I said 5-0.
That's interesting because Auburn hosts Missouri in a few weeks. So
and Neville's a different animal. If that game was in Missouri, I would change it, but not at home.
Yeah.
So
So Auburn's got a shot to be the number one team in the country tomorrow.
Maybe Kansas was just overrated, right? Maybe they were just overrated.
I mean, I've watched them a few times. They seem pretty good to me, but you can have off weeks, right? That's not crazy to say.
True, the whole week, because that'll be their second loss in a row, is what we're saying, right?
Yeah. I don't know how good Missouri is. Like, do you think that says more about Missouri or more about Kansas?
Ooh, I don't know. We'll find out, I guess, the SEC opener. Did Kansas lose to Creighton? Is that who they lost to? Who did Kansas lose to just a couple days ago? Their first loss was, I believe, Creighton, and that's who Alabama plays next week. I think it was Creighton. Let's see.
Yeah.
Who did Kansas lose to?
Man, this is great stuff. Yeah, Creighton, 76-63.
Okay. Yeah, that one close.
Yeah, and they've got a win over Duke, which is huge. And then
where was that? That game was played in a neutral floor?
Man, you are asking a lot of me right now.
I know, but you've got it pulled up with your multiple.
The event was Terry's Chocolate Vegas Showdowns. I'm assuming it's in Vegas. Yeah,
neutral. I would have loved to get Duke on a neutral floor.
Yeah, I want to play in Terry's Chocolate Vegas Showdown.
It's got three of my favorite things. Back it up, Terry, chocolate, and Vegas. Yeah. I mean, that's a trifecta that you cannot beat right there.
Yeah, and then the other quality win is North Carolina, but everybody's beating North Carolina.
North Carolina's struggling right now. Yeah, they barely beat Georgia Tech. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every good team North Carolina's played, they've lost to. So Ohio State's interesting. Like, they beat a ranked Texas team to start things off. They lost to a ranked Texas A&M team. They lost to Pitt. They lose to Maryland. Their wins outside of Texas are against Youngstown State, Evansville, Campbell, Green Bay, and Rutgers.
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm not going to ask you to do it again because I've asked too much, but I wonder how many of those victories were actually on the road. You can say all you want about Atlanta, but Atlanta's going to have a big Auburn feel to it. Yeah.
None of them are on the road.
Yeah.
They lost at A&M. They lost at Maryland.
Yeah. Atlanta's going to feel like a home game for Auburn. There'll be a large.
It has every other time we've played in that event. Why would that stop now, right?
It's a nice game for Auburn to play. It's a Big Ten opponent. It's on a supposed neutral floor, but it's going to have a decidedly Auburn feel to it, and it's a nice game. It'll do well. It'll do good for the net rankings and all that too. It'll help.
Yeah, Ohio State's still 28th in KenPom, so the analytics like Ohio State, but I do think Auburn wins this game. You want to guess the line of what it'll be?
Yeah, I'm going to guess Auburn will be favored 12.
Really? That's a lot. I don't think it'll be that high. I was thinking like 8.5 or something.
Yeah.
12 points is a ton.
Yeah.
In a neutral site.
They're not stupid. They know Atlanta's.
I get it.
Proximity to Auburn's pretty close.
I get it.
Yeah. If it was like Indianapolis or Nashville or something like that, but Atlanta's hour and a half.
Yeah.
A lot of Auburn alumni in Atlanta.
It's probably easier for a lot of people to get tickets to that game than a game in Neville.
Sure it is. Absolutely is. Big arena, State Farm, right? Playing where the Hawks play.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or maybe the Hawks play where Auburn plays Hoops Giving at.
It's true. It's
what I'm saying? It's all about perspective.
All about perspective.
All right, so the Auburn Tigers take down the Richmond Spiders 98-54. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got? going on.
Follow me on X, Dap6410, Instagram, Darrell Dap, Wednesdays and Fridays with you, my friend, on Locked On Auburn. And then we'll be back next Saturday, 6 days from now is the next time Auburn laces them up.
Yes. So please like the video. Please subscribe. So close to 20K. Really, really appreciate all of y'all. And we'll talk again soon. This has been Locked On Auburn.